everyone, and welcome back to Big Man, Big Problems. I am Julio. This is our second episode, and I said very clearly in our first episode that I was never going to make this podcast about weight loss, and I'm not going to. But what I am not going to talk about is being unhealthy. I'm certainly not promoting that somebody be a big man like I am, and I'm not promoting that anybody lose all the weight and get really fit. But there is and has always been a difference between being thin and being healthy. And one of the best ways of being healthy is to do something that a lot of guys like me fear, which is going to the gym. So I have a very special guest today. As I told you in my last podcast, I was a contestant on The Biggest Loser. And when you're on The Biggest Loser and you get voted off, as I did, you go home and they say, "Good luck to you. See you at the finale." So basically, it's your job to go out and find a way to continue the weight loss and continue the exercise. So in order to do that, you have to find the trainer. And I found a very, very special one. He was a young man, 25 years old, new to the industry or newer to the industry. And his name is Tony Webster. Welcome, Tony. Tony is now the proprietor of a gym called Cross Kicks here in Illinois. And he and I really, when we started, didn't know what we were doing. Tony was a newer trainer. And I think, Tony, I was your first real challenge when it came to a guy my size. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would agree with that, yeah.
Where I'm lucky is over the years, Tony and I have stayed very, very close. I still have a membership to his gym, even though I don't frequent it as often as he would probably like. And I understand the difficulties of going to the gym, especially when you're a big guy. And I thought we would ask Tony what it was like to deal with somebody like me in my particular situation. Tony, what were some of the difficulties you encountered when we first started working out?
Yeah, that that question goes fairly deep. I mean, most of the background I had at that juncture of time was, working with athletes. I played 2 college sports, I was around fitness and strength and conditioning my whole upbringing. So, most of my clientele and most of my people that I was working with up to that point were, um, more, athletes and people that were involved in, um, more general fitness, I could say. Um,
Would you say that your clients before me were less reluctant to do the exercises you were putting in front of them?
no, no. So I guess the biggest challenge I guess I had when Julio came in was, um, you know, I always say, and still to this day, never judge a book by its cover. So, um, you know, y- Julio wasn't a small individual. It was something that I needed to make sure I had the right adaptations, the right modalities. We want to make sure that we weren't being injured, but we want to be able to put together effective workouts, effective training, programs for him on his journey. So I think that finding the balance and a typical person that we could go and start adding resistance and loads to. Julio was one of those people that we had to start on the opposite end and just start working to move the body, and that's where we started. So
So what do you think was more difficult? Um, Showing me how to do the exercise or convincing me that I could?
oh, it was convincing you that you could. A lot of the challenges that we had to overcome weren't physical. They weren't physical challenges. These were mental challenges. There's so many different things, Julio was one of those guys that needed to know like what the plan was that day and how we were going to go execute that plan. And there was a lot of questions, and however many minutes of that hour training session, let's per se, we had, he's going to ask all of the questions on what we're going to try to accomplish that day before we actually get into the workout. And hey, let's get started on this workout and I'll explain. Let's
Well,
just get moving. But
that that was certainly something I learned about myself in that particular journey.
yeah.
He would say, "Okay, Julio, I need you to do this." And I would say, great. So what does that look like at the end?
Yeah.
And I needed to know how many reps because, quite frankly, and a lot of you guys out there will probably agree with me on this. Once you do the first rep, you know if you're going to get to the 20th. Once you put that first bar above your head, you can judge somewhat that you're going to make it to 5, or you're going to make it to 10, or you're going to make it to 20. Bob Harper showed me something that I never forgot. I can do anything for 20 seconds.
Hmm.
20 seconds, because I can judge 20 seconds in my head. What I didn't know is how many leg lifts could I do in a minute, without knowing where the minute started and where the minute ended exactly.
Hmm.
I had to judge it from that first one. Are there any particular things that we did that you remember
I
differently?
know, I know what you're getting at. He wants me to tell a story here. So, everybody maybe on this, cast probably maybe, knows what a plyometric is, or a lot of people maybe understand box jumps, alright? So, here's this day.
Box jumps, they know. They have no idea what a plyometric is
Yeah,
because I don't think I know
okay.
plyometric.
So, essentially taking both of your feet from the ground onto an elevated object, right? Typically a small box. You can
Yeah.
imagine a stair or a small box or something of the sort. So, here we are, "Hey, we're gonna do, this exercise, and then we're gonna finish each round with a set of 5 box jumps." He's like, "We're gonna do what?" And, anyway, so, of course, again, he has to go I have to show him. I'm gonna show him what we're gonna do here, and I go over and boom, boom, just these. You're gonna jump up in this box 5 times. And, I never forget that, the first day he goes and he just stands in front of this box,
I
and no joke, probably for, I mean, 3, 4 minutes of just
well,
like, "Oh, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna
I
go."
remember the moment because he says, "Alright, I need you to jump on this box 5 times." And I said, "Okay, I got it." And I stood there and I stood in front of the box. I don't know, it was probably about 10 or 15 seconds, but it probably felt to Tony like it was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, no, just jump on the box." And I go, "No, I got it. I got it. I'm good." And he goes, "What are you waiting for?" And I think I said, "I'm trying to convince myself I'm not gonna die." And and he looked over, he goes, "Got it. Take your time."
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was, I think, the difference of Tony than I think a lot of trainers is he began to understand, as many of you probably understand, that going to the gym and doing these exercises, there's really 2 issues that we carry with us when we go to gym. Number 1 is judgment, and we can get to that, in a little bit. The other one is, can I actually do this? Um, I'm gonna tell you, and I'll tell everybody, that everybody should be doing some form of exercise sometime in their life. There is no greater thing that you can do. I had a doctor tell me once, it was a sports doctor in the middle of dealing with everything I was dealing with, and he said that if I can take all the effects of exercise, bottle it up, put it in a pill, that'd be the greatest thing I can do for someone's health. That's a little different than dieting. Dieting is promoting weight loss, exercise is promoting good health. So you don't necessarily have to be on a diet or a weight loss journey to venture into the gym and be as lucky as I was to find somebody like Tony. You could just go to the gym and just generally be healthy just for your own good. So what are the things that you think that you learned, training me that's carried you over the next, what's it been, 16 years since you and I met?
Yeah.
I mean, since then, Tony has made a career of getting people in better shape. He probably had a little bit of a different understanding of it after me. Um, but what are the things you learned that carried you forward?
Yeah, I mean, really great question, and thanks for that. We have had, probably thousands and thousands at this point in time of, people on their weight loss journeys that we've helped, um, throughout the way, but, uh, I think the biggest thing is being able to just assume at the beginning when you're speaking with somebody that's had a hard time losing weight, again, that it's just much of a mental game as a physical game. They have to decide on that day at that time if it's time. Like, if it's time to if it's time for me, and then essentially, next to that, like, how bad, you know, what am I willing to do for this change to happen. And you can paint them that journey and paint them that picture of what that's going to look like as far as like, hey, here's where we are now and here's where I want to be. And then I'm just able to, create that modality and that path for them to hit that metric. But I also have found that just as you needed to see the end of that workout before we started the workout, people need to see what that journey looks like. So I try to break it down in much smaller measures, right? So a lot of the people that I'm coaching now, it's, you break down weekly, daily, like, "Hey, what does your day look like? How can we be s how can we succeed today so then we can be successful tomorrow?" Or, "What can I do today to set me up for success tomorrow that's gonna snowball into this week, that's gonna snowball into this month, that's gonna snowball into this, 90-day transformation into the next year? What does that look like?" And that helps people, I think, immensely.
You notice in all the conversation here that we're not speaking of any real particular exercise, right? We're not talking about how many miles you should walk. We're not talking about how much weight you should lift or how high the box should be in front of you when you attempt that death-defying jump on top of a box. What we're talking about is the thought process of going in the gym. I was pretty famous for saying, people ask me all the time what was the hardest part about going to the gym, and my answer was always the same. It was walking through the front door.
Right, you gotta show up.
I would sit in my car, not when I was training with you, because I very much look forward to every time I was able to see you. It was like a glorious time of my life.
Mm,
But the hardest part was sitting in the car talking myself into walking through the front door. And then once you're there, right? Which brings me to the idea of judgment. So Tony's gym called CrossKick is probably the best gym system I have ever seen, and I've seen a lot. And really, it's like going in and having a personal trainer without really having a personal trainer and all the expense of going through that. And every day you walk in, he's got a different workout set up for everybody. And sometimes you're kickboxing, and sometimes you're punching a bag, and sometimes you're doing those ropes. What do you call those ropes?
battle ropes.
Battle ropes.
Yeah.
That's not what I call them, but they're battle ropes. And sometimes you're pushing a sled, and sometimes Tony would stand on the sled
Mm,
when I tried to push
good.
it, because he treated me a little differently than everybody else for some reason.
Huh.
Maybe it was because of his fondness for me, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that was it.
Um, but, it wasn't easy for me too having somebody like you, right? Tony, was a 2, sport athlete in college,
Mhm,
as I'm sure, and those were what? One was badminton,
mhm.
and the other was, I think, chess?
Yeah, chess club,
What were they actually?
football, baseball. And then I wrestled in high school.
The easy one. Got it. Okay. So Tony one day towards the end of our training, I guess, got a little bored with our training, and he says, I have a great idea. Let's go to the large fitness center. I'm not going to say which one because they're not paying me to, but let's go to the large fitness center in town instead of the small gym we're working out at. I said, great. What are we going to do? He goes, oh, we'll play some racquetball. We'll play some basketball. It'll be great. I said, wonderful. So we go there. And before I know it, I have a racquetball lodged in me in a place I don't want to mention about 3 inches deep. And I said, can you just start to take it a little easy? Because I'm not you. He goes, what do you mean? I'm just playing. I said, how about we try basketball? I never got a shot more than 1 feet above the air before he took it and threw it in my face like he was Shaq. It was the worst
Uh,
experience of my life. You just can't turn it off. That's your thing.
yeah, they're
So,
not gonna let you win. I say the same thing to my kids. Gotta earn it.
oh, golly. We just want to be healthy. That's all we want. So let me ask you another question. If you can go back 16 years, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently, if any?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning, part of this industry is evolving like crazy, the fitness industry, but, hey, let me go back real quick. You don't give yourself nearly as much credit, like, you were decent at racquetball.
I am not paying him for this advertisement. I just want everybody clear for that.
You're more athletic than you think.
Well, now that's a great thing you touch on, since we're talking to a lot of guys out there who are struggling to go to the gym. I didn't learn till I was 40 years old that I can do certain things. I grew up with 2 very athletic brothers. I was very bad at certain things, like, you know that game where you're standing in the batter's box and they throw the ball at you and you're supposed to hit it with the bat? Yeah, I struggled with that, hitting it with the bat thing. Yeah, and because of that, I always felt, not very athletic. So now I'm 40 years old, I'm on the ranch at The Biggest Loser, and Bob and Jillian are standing in front of me, and I said, "You know, I'm not very athletic," because they just asked me to do something, and they look at each other, looked at me, and they said, "Who told you that?" And I said, "Well, they've been telling me that my whole life." And Bob says, "I had you doing yoga at 400 pounds. Trust me, you're athletic." And then, of course, I went on to doing some triathlons and trained for the marathon, numerous
Yes, you
5Ks,
did.
10Ks, and, that's all thanks to, obviously, my natural athletic ability, as well as all of Tony's coaching and help. Um, but I was saying to you, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I was getting to that. So here, you learn a lot along the way. However, uh, these same principles and modalities and thought processes and whatnot that I had implemented with you, 16 years ago, we're calling it, are the same things, that we're implementing into our programs today, which is really cool. I think, it works, you keep doing the stuff that works. I think the only other things maybe would have been, um, I don't know. I don't know.
So the answer is nothing. You do
I don't
nothing
think I would have done much different.
and I didn't expect you to say anything differently because what you did was fantastic. I'll tell you, you took that challenge on.
Mm,
I mean, you grabbed the bull by the horns. He took it seriously.
yeah.
And I'm not sure every contestant that was on The Biggest Loser had that same thing that I did. He took it seriously, and we were just saying go ahead.
I have one thing.
Okay.
So, I didn't claim for myself to be an expert in all fields. Like, I came from this, fitness background. I knew how to deliver a workout that's gonna be effective for him. I knew, how to provide the motivation, but some of the things that I was not claiming to be an expert in were some of the areas of nutrition, and how that nutrition is going to look, for somebody that is diving as deep into a serious weight loss goal as we were with, that was time bound, and we knew we were going back on a national television show, and we were under some additional pressures. Um, I wish that I would have possibly reached out. We reached out to resources to
Mhm,
get help there.
mhm.
But I do think that, um, given that we would have had more time before this to prep, we could have, brought in additional resources
No, we were
even
under the
beyond
gun.
that.
We
Because
were
I mean, literally, you got home from the show, and I think that you were without a trainer for, like, at least a week to 2 weeks before we even started coaching, so we were a
correct.
couple weeks behind the ball
Yes.
already.
Yeah,
So it was like, "Hey, I'm here. We need to get moving."
yeah.
And I'm like, "Alright, let's get you moving right
Yeah,
now."
I
And
suppose that's the, I'm gonna use a word I hate, caveat. That's the caveat of the whole thing is that, our journey was not one of just, "Okay, I wanna be healthier, I wanna lose a little bit of weight," that
mhm,
type of thing. Our journey was, "This is the deadline, we have to lose as much weight on this by this date as quickly as possible."
mhm,
The difference I had, and I'll be honest, this may have cost me the actual prize, is that we never, ever once, not one day, not one week, did we ever do it in an unhealthy way. And that's all the credit to you. I don't know what would have happened if we did,
mhm.
but we always stayed true to what we were doing. And I was on the same calorie count the day before we weighed in from the day we started.
Yeah.
Yeah, we followed that
And there was no
sincerely.
malnourishment there.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
Would do it again in a heartbeat. It was a great experience. It
Yeah.
was a tall order, I mean, we were putting in hours. I mean, that was 3 separate sessions a day,
Mm,
plus he was working full time.
yeah.
So, we were just sucking the life out of him during that period. I mean, he was in, just to give a day in the life, I mean, he was in at I think that was about 4:35 AM to start his day, with a HIIT training cardio session. So that was a, workout designed to help get his systems, all firing, his metabolic systems, his energy systems up for the day, ready to take it on. That was a shorter session, around 1 hour. He left breakfast, um, work, and then he would come back in over lunch hour, and we had about a 90-minute metabolic session, meaning we were incorporating some strength components along with some cardio components. That was the tough training session of the day.
Almost always strength. Yeah, and
Yeah,
don't let that pretty face, fool you folks. I would walk in, he'd say, "How you doing?" I say, "I'm tired." He's like, "Great, get on the treadmill."
yeah,
And do you remember how he warmed me up? Yeah, he literally put me on the treadmill with the treadmill off and said, "Start running."
yeah,
No, that was real. And by the end of it, walking, lunges was our cool down.
yeah. It
Yeah,
was sad
that was
for
that
me.
that
Yeah,
was amazing.
yeah,
Okay, well, enough of that stuff.
yeah.
So, I have a few questions, that some people from your gym,
Mm,
wanted me to ask you,
okay.
okay? Number 1, are you ever gonna return Julio's bike that he lent you a few years ago?
Oh, that's funny. It's hanging in my
It's in a
garage.
ditch somewhere, isn't
Nope,
it? Tell
it's
me the truth.
hanging in my garage, and I have 4 kids that have 7 bikes each, so
Uh-huh.
it's one of the, like, 15 bikes that are in my garage, and I
So
actually
the
would
$1,500 road
love for
buddy.
you to come pick that bike up and bring it back into your own garage. Would be fantastic for
Okay.
Mm.
Uh, and
Did you think I was gonna answer it that way?
I just didn't know what happened to it. I
It's
just wanted
there.
a little honesty, I suppose. Um, next question.
Hmm.
Is it true that if you never met me, right now you would be managing an RV somewhere in Iowa?
You know what? That's a loaded question. I thought we were closer than that. I had a lot of great things going in my life when we met.
Wow, he got louder, didn't he? Oh, that one got him. You know, that one came from, Abster at the AOL.com. I'm not sure who that is.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know what? It definitely was a little bit of a jump start to my weight loss coaching journey, which, obviously still today, is a huge, people having weight loss goals and joining a gym is, you know, our typical, client that still starts out with us today are looking for, a direction, for weight loss. So definitely, becoming, uh, one of, quote unquote, one of the experts in the weight loss industry for, coaching modalities and that type of thing definitely was a good jump start to that career.
I'm kidding. You would have been successful no matter what you did. It's just that, what we did changed the trajectory a little bit of
Yeah,
both of our lives.
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
None of these were rehearsed here
No.
to start right now.
Okay, so I have one more question. Do you feel that what you're really doing is defrauding all of your gym memberships into thinking that one day they're gonna look like you?
A serious question.
I
I think everybody
it is
needs something to aspire to.
that's all right,
Is that what you mean?
that's a perfect answer. I aspire to be you. I
Uh,
really do. So, you could see that Tony and I have obviously stayed friends, throughout this entire process. I've always considered him, a brother. I can, the other contestants that were on the show with me, we have a bond, when you go through something like that together and you go through that type of thing. And I feel very similarly about Tony, because no matter how hard it got, no matter how much I fought him, he always, stuck with, and you guys know that, I like to do baseball analogies. I think baseball, Tony, is honestly, it's life.
mm,
It's life played out in the field. It's an individual sport played by a team.
mm,
And you need teammates. And last week I did an analogy about standing in the batter's box, but for Tony and I, it's more of the relationship of a pitcher and a catcher. No joke intended there, by the way. And I'm the pitcher, right? Because I'm the one who has to perform, and Tony's the catcher, right? So what does the catcher do? The catcher tells the pitcher what to throw, and the pitcher then has to trust that he's able to throw the ball the way he wants it thrown, and then has to trust that the catcher is going to catch the ball, whether he misses and it's in the dirt, or it comes straight down the middle, or he foul tips it and he catches it, he has to put a lot of trust in his catcher that he not only made the right call, but he's also going to be able to catch the ball when it gets to him, regardless of how well or how poorly he does. And that's the relationship of a trainer and somebody who's being trained. Is you have to trust the process, and you have to trust that what they have is your best interest in mind, and that they're going to take care of you. And getting back to the whole judgment part of it, I've been in many gyms, and like many of you, I've gone in a little bit self conscious. And going into a gym like Tony's, man, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of fit people in there, and there's a lot of people who are exercising and working out at a high level, and I don't recall them or any of the trainers looking at me like, "Oh, who's this guy? He's just gonna clog up the machine. He's just gonna slow us down." Um, Really, they gave me a lot of encouragement. Um, they were happy that I was there, probably because of my bubbly personality, but they were happy because I was there, and they would encourage you and help you and get through what I want. So again, I'm not here telling everybody to go on a weight loss journey, but what I'm always going to tell people is be on a health journey. Don't be ashamed of who you are. Just make sure you are who you are for as long as possible. And the way to get there is exercise is a big deal. And even if you can't, if you have physical and mobility issues, there's still things you can do. Okay. So, Tony, I hope you enjoyed this experience because I certainly did. Anytime I get to spend with you is a good time. And next time we'll probably bring your wife on because she's a lot cuter
Yeah,
and she's
I'd say.
funnier.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And probably knows more too. He's smarter than I am.
Well, one day we're going to do, hopefully here in the near future, we're going to do a segment that has to do with my time on the show, and I'll bring in some one or two or more contestants that were on the show with me so we can discuss it. And I'm hoping to bring Tony back to talk about since well, he was part of it. He was one of the guys in the background you just never really see. So until next time, I thank you for listening or thank you for watching. If you're watching the video on YouTube, please reach out to me. Send me messages through my Facebook page at Big Man, Big Problem Podcast, or you could send me a message through Instagram. And if you ask me questions, I will respond to them. Like I said, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I'm certainly not a personal trainer, and I'm not a therapist, but what I am is a guy who's gone through it all and gone through it all a couple of times. And I'll listen and I'll comment, and hopefully, we'll get through all this together. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.